Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Writers Podcast. I have with me returning guest JP McLean, and it's great to have you back on for the third time, JP. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me back 3 times. Much appreciated.
Yes, and I don't even have to say third time's a charm because it's been charming every time you've come on.
Oh, listen to you.
I've been saving that for a while. and it's true. So how are things out on the island on the West Coast?
Good. It's finally turned cold. It was 2 degrees this morning, so frosty. So all of the leaves are going to finally fall off the trees, I suspect. But it's drier than usual, so that's a bonus.
That's good. Yes, we're recording this on November 2nd, 2022, and I'm up near Edmonton, and we've had our first real snowfall, which is depressing in a way, but considering where we live, it's pretty good. We had a green Halloween, so that's fantastic. We'll just have to take it from there and get through this long winter again. But compared to other parts of the world, I guess our weather troubles aren't really that bad.
No, we can't complain. We do, but we shouldn't.
Right. So why don't you, because you've been on twice, so we're not going to go into a deep dive on your biography and whatnot, but just like a quick little summary of who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, sure. I'm JP McLean. The J stands for Joanne, and I write full-time from my home on Denman Island, which is a northern Gulf island between Vancouver Island and the mainland. And I write supernatural thrillers, paranormal, urban fantasy type books, and so far I've got 2 series out. The first series was supernatural, about a secret society of people who could fly, and this new one, as a matter of fact, just yesterday, book 2 in the series came out, and this is the Dark Dream series. The first one was Bloodmark, and this new one is Ghostmark. And I'm really excited to say that with the publication of Ghostmark, I now have 1 million words in print. 1 million.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's a lot
that's
of
amazing.
words.
That sure is.
That's long books.
Yeah. Is the Supernatural series done? Or
I think there's going to be one more. Well, there is. I'm already writing it. There is going to be one more book. I don't know if there will be more beyond that, but for sure there's going to be one more because Jane has more to do and more to say.
She's got more flying to do.
That was the first one. This new series is the one about the woman with the birthmarks. So
yes, of course.
The book Bloodmark, which came out October of last year, was about a woman named Jane Walker who was born with these birthmarks, and they were a scarlet chain that wrapped around her body, including a massive mark on her face. And she's thrilled when one by one the marks begin to disappear, which happens when she's about 25 years old, until she learns that those marks are the only thing protecting her from a killer who's been stalking her. So that's the first book. This next book is Ghostmark, and this is, in the first book, she inadvertently changed history, and it negatively impacted her and people she knows and loves. And so in this next book, after months of searching, she finds the man whose history she inadvertently changed, and she thought she had changed his history for the better. But in fact, because of her mistake, he's become a seasoned killer and a major player in a drug gang. And when she discovers that this guy is actually targeting Ethan, the guy she fell in love with in the first book, she sets out to warn them. But before she can do that, she falls into another one of these dreams, and this one won't let her go.
So she's in a coma basically a coma as far as the real world is concerned then?
Yeah, that's what happens when she dreams. She suffers from paralytic narcolepsy. So when she falls into these dreams, she can't move. She's stuck until the dream lets her go, and this dream just won't let her go. So she's needs to get out of that dream to warn Ethan so that she can save the day, but she's stuck in her dream.
All right. So it sounds like you're ramping up the danger, and that's to be expected with a series. And I'm curious as to how, like when you wrote the first book, did you have all these pieces that you've just described for the second book in in mind or in place already?
What's really interesting is when I wrote the first book, I really did think I had everything in place. But as I was writing the first book, I ran into some problems with the story structure, and it took me a while to figure it out. And that's, I think, because I used to just write from one person's perspective, first person perspective, one character. And I challenged myself with this series to make it 3 characters, third person perspective. So weaving those 3 storylines together in a flowable sense was more difficult than I thought. So even though I had an outline and thought I had it figured out, I had to do a lot of backtracking and rewriting in the outline itself. And even in the second book, Ghostmark, the same thing happened. And I think it's because it's such a challenge for me to weave these 3 stories together. Each book has 3 stories woven together. And the new book is going to be the same. I just have that sense. Like, even though I have, basically, I know where it's going. I know some of the major scenes. I never know all the scenes, but I know some of the major scenes. I can already tell that I'm having trouble in the center section, and I'm going to have to rethink and ramp up I'm going to have to throw more stones at the characters, as they say. Get your character in a tree and then throw stones at them. I need more stones.
Okay. So, yeah, you've got these 3 storylines going. Could you just list them out just to clarify for the listeners?
Sure. In the first book, the 3 storylines are Jane Walker. She's the main character, so it's her storyline. Her best friend, who is also her roommate, Sadie. She's the second storyline. And the third storyline in that first book is the villain, so Rick. And both Sadie and Jane know Rick, but they know him as a different person. They don't know.
Okay.
They find out later that it's the same guy, but they don't know at the time.
Right.
And in the new book, I stayed with Jane and Sadie because those are the 2 main characters. And this time, the third voice I brought in was Ethan, because Ethan is the fellow that Jane hooked up with in the first story, and he plays a major role in the second story.
Okay.
And the third book, again, I stay with Jane and Sadie, and then the third voice is somebody else, and I'm not going to mention who that person is yet because that might spoil it for people who are still reading it. But yeah, the third voice is a different voice again. It is a man, but it is a different voice. And in the third book is also when the trial takes place, because in the first book she's kidnapped, and that fellow that kidnapped her is facing a trial. So there's going to be a trial in the third one, and that's also something that I've never done before. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I do have an expert that I have managed to get some wonderful advice from. So it's actually a prosecutor here.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, was it a medical expert or?
No, it's a prosecutor. Is giving me, like, I love the little details. That's what I like about when I'm reading stories. I want to know little bits. What does it smell like? Like a courtroom. I've never been in a courtroom. So what does it smell like? Where are the windows? What's on the floor? Those little details I really think make the scenes. So that's what I'm going for.
Okay. And how did you go about getting this expert source?
Friends.
Okay.
I happened to ask a friend who is a lawyer, and she says, "Oh, I happen to know someone, and she'll talk to you." So it was just luck, very good luck on my part, I'm afraid.
Okay. So the whole storyline about Jane's tattoos or birthmarks that disappeared, that I don't know if that was something we discussed in the previous podcast, and I don't know if that's something you can divulge here, but what was the catalyst for her losing it? Was it meeting Ethan, or is it something entirely separate?
No, it was completely separate. It was the fact that she was turning 25, and there was an expiration date, so to speak, on her marks. So when they started to fade, it was because they were worn out. It was time for them to go, and she needed to know. She couldn't know because she was adopted at birth. Her parents abandoned her. So she didn't know why she had the protection, and that was the whole point of the first book. She had to figure out why. Okay.
And does that figure out why, does that for her find out who did it to her and why it was only lasting for so long?
Some of it, that was definitely some of it.
Okay.
But there's more intrigue to it than that, because the dreams were connected as well. The dreams that she's having, and they're all connected to the marks.
Okay.
And now the marks are gone.
Right.
In this new book, the marks are gone, or so we think.
Okay. And does her, it's hard to ask about these tattoos because I have a feeling that it's like at the center of your story, and you don't want to give away all the goods on it. But I'm just trying to wrap my head around it a little bit in terms of how it affected her. Because did she, like, the events that you're talking about with this killer and that, she must have been very young. And it sounds like, she's totally blocked these memories out and they're just starting to come back to her because of the dreams that she's having? Is that how it's working? Or
in the first book, she is almost 25 years old. She doesn't know, all she knows is that she has these awful marks. She wishes they were gone. And she has these awful dreams that she wishes she didn't have.
Right.
Because her dreams are dreams of the past.
Right.
And she knows they're more than dreams because of actual events that have happened. And she's been able to confirm it enough times.
Okay.
But she doesn't talk about it because every time she has in the past, people ridicule her. And they don't want to know that she knows things about them that she shouldn't know.
Right.
So when the marks start to disappear, she's just elated. She thinks, oh my goodness, my life is finally turning around. And then she's out at the university one day delivering flowers because she works at a nursery.
Right.
And the professor sees the mark on the back of her hand, and he is instrumental in teaching her that these are not birthmarks like she thinks they are. They're blood marks, and they were given to her in a ritual.
Okay.
And so when the marks disappear, her protection that the marks offer her disappear as well.
Right.
So in the new book, she does not have the marks. They're gone now. She turned 25 and the last mark disappeared on her 25th birthday. So now the marks are gone, but she still has these dreams. And these dreams are getting more and more vivid and more real. And in the end of the last book, she actually inadvertently changed history by acting in the dream. And it was a real thing that she did. It wasn't just her being a ghost in the past. She was actually physically there in the past. So in this one, she's even more physically there in the past and has to be extra super careful because she knows what happened and the damage she caused by doing something quite innocent. So she's very much aware that she is in danger if she touches anything in the past. It could even affect her life, whether she lives or not.
So this is time travel in effect.
It is, but it is time travel, but it's like a time slip. It's like when she, it's not like she goes to the distant past. She doesn't. She never goes distant past. She just goes maybe to the childhood of the person that she's dealing with, but she doesn't go distant past, not to the 18th century or anything. So it's not quite,
Right. But she's physically there in that moment, or is she in just a ghost form?
Yeah, sometimes ghost form, sometimes more there, and she can't yet figure out why sometimes she's a ghost and why sometimes she's real.
Okay.
And that's part of the mystery, part of her arc that she's still learning that part of her ghosting abilities. And that's why this book is called Ghost Mark.
Right. So when she has these moments, is it just when she goes to sleep, or can it come upon her suddenly? Like if she's out and about in her car and all of a sudden she has one of these fugues, I guess you could call it. Is that how it works? Or does she just go to sleep and then it happens?
For her, it's always in her sleep. So she will go to bed at night never knowing if she's going to fall into a dream or not. She just doesn't know. But it's always at night. It's always during a sleep phase in her life. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good because
and she only knows, like if someone's with her, when she falls asleep, when she's in one of these states, you can't wake her up.
Right.
Like you could hurt her and she wouldn't wake up. The room could fall down around her and she wouldn't wake up. She's absolutely paralyzed in these. So she's very vulnerable when she's in that state.
Right. Which makes for a great dramatic device potentially if she's basically that vulnerable and somebody's looking for her. That could be very tense. Yes.
I use that to full advantage.
Okay, good. And now turning a little bit to the craft side. So you set up and wrote the first book. I don't recall how much of the entire series arc you had plotted out at that time. Did you have it in your, at least a rough outline?
I had 2 books. I knew I had 2 books.
Right.
Immediately I knew I had 2 books. I wasn't sure about the third, but halfway through the writing of Ghostmark, I was pretty clear that there was a third, and I've got that.
Okay.
Like I said, I've already got it started. I don't have it completely outlined, which is really When I was doing the first books, I got into quite a habit of doing an extensive outline. And this is proving a little challenging, I gotta say. It is proving challenging, but it does, like, in the end, it is even more interesting because it's 3 different people's perspectives.
Right.
My challenge is weaving them in such a manner that you're keeping the reader on edge, just giving enough information at the right time.
Yeah,
that's challenging.
Yeah,
it's really challenging, but it's fun. I'm enjoying the process.
Yeah, well, as a writer, that's good to challenge yourself that way, for sure. What did you find different about the writing of the second book as compared to the first one?
What was different was I was a little more prepared for the 3 storylines. And so rather than when I outlined the first one, I outlined it chapter by chapter, event by event. And this one, what I did was I took a look at each character and just did that character's story from the beginning to the end, like in the outline. And so I took Jane's character and I knew where she was going to start and where she was going to develop and end. And then I took Sadie's story and did the same. And then I took the third person's, Ethan's, and did his to the end. And then the only thing I had left was twisting those 3 stories together, braiding them, so to speak, so that, like, when I had Ethan's chapter, I had to make sure that he was in the same place as the other characters or just before what the other 2 characters were doing. Right. In the timeline.
Okay.
And then the time slip adds another element because it's like, oh my goodness, okay, so she's gone back in time, whatever, 5 months or whatever, and all the things that may have been tweaked when she did that. So it's interesting. It's challenging. The reviews are good so far. Fingers crossed. So I think I got it right. I hope I got it right. Yeah. You never know until you get feedback from outside your circle.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always you hold your breath and bite your nails and just hope that the reviews come in favorably. So
curious, did you like once you were done the first draft, did you put it in a drawer for a while to let it take the immediacy away from it, so you had a little bit of perspective before you went back to it? Do you do that, or? Yeah,
I do. I do. I put it away as long as I can. It's hard, because you want to dig back into it. But I did put it away. I don't think I put it away as long as I have for some of the other books, though, because I was trying to get it out early. I've got a publicist now, as you may know, a really lovely man named McLean, and he needs the books 4 months ahead of publication so that he can get it out for review. So in order to get the book finished, I did have to at the very end, I did have to go through that process a little quicker than I would normally go through it. But luckily, I've got some wonderful, wonderful editors that were able to take it through. Yeah. And I do, when I do the first run through, I do a pretty clean draft, I got to say. There's not a lot of mess with the draft, not a lot of cleaning up to do, but it's the threads and the timing of them that's the key for me. And I have to make sure that that's in the right order. Right. And the first book, like I said, huge challenge. Second book, I was getting a little more used to it. And then with the third one, I'm even outlining it differently. So it's coming together a little bit better. I guess you would get better at it as you go. So yeah, to be expected. It's quite often your process evolves and changes, and sometimes it might just change specifically for one book because of the specific nature of that book as well. So that's seems par for the course. Yeah. So we talked a lot about Jane. What's Sadie's storyline in this second novel? Oh, Sadie. When I first was writing Bloodmark, I actually thought Sadie was going to outshine Jane because Sadie is such fun. Sadie is someone who I use to compare and contrast Jane. So Sadie is a super interesting character in that she is also an orphan and grew up in the system with Jane, but she is beautiful and vivacious and outgoing, and she's also a prostitute in her spare time. It's how she gets money. When she's terrible with money. She's carefree, footloose, so she's the exact opposite of Jane. Right. But because they have grown up in the system together and learned to defend each other when they were quite young, they're fiercely loyal to one another. And that's what gets them through so many of the tight spots that they get themselves into. It's also a point of humor between them because that conflict is often humorous. It's like the what's that old show about those two old codgers and they were complete opposites of one another?
The Odd Couple?
The Odd Couple, that's it. So that's what these two are like. They're like the Odd Couple.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And that same thing is in play in the second book, because they have gone through some changes and they have both grown up quite a bit in the first book. And in the second book, they're just trying to manage their new lives that, that came out as a result of the trauma from the first one. And Sadie's continuously tempted, because it's her nature. She's tempted to go the easy way.
Right.
She can pick up a prostitution gig and get a whole bunch of money in one night, or she can hunker down and learn to earn money a different way that doesn't break her pride. And that's her big. She's got to figure out how to live with the choices that she's made in her life, because it impacts everything.
Okay, and what's her reaction, or how does she take the abilities that Jane has, or does she even know about them?
Oh, no, she does. She's the only one who knows about them, because she grew up with Jane. And Jane, there's a scene in the first book that describes how Sadie learned about Jane's abilities. And it was when Jane was very vulnerable. She had first arrived at the group home and she'd come straight from the hospital because she'd been dealing with something. And when she arrived, she dreamed about, after she'd been there a while, she dreamed about Sadie. And Sadie had snuck into the pantry of the group home that they were living at and pilfered bags of chocolate chips, bags of crunchy chips and cocktail wieners and stuff that you would expect a kid to do. But she'd also pilfered a bottle of vodka. And Jane approached Sadie in her bunk at night and said, I want some of the vodka. And there was no way for her to know that. So Sadie knew from a fairly young age that Jane could do this, could see things and in the past. And so that secret is something that they share. And the reference that Sadie gives is, it's difficult to live with someone knowing that there is zero privacy, absolutely no privacy, because at any point in time, Jane can dream about anything that Sadie has done in the past. So it's something that she's come to accept about her friend, because she's her only friend, and it's something that they share. It's part of what makes them so tightly connected.
So how does that relationship respond to the introduction of Ethan into the mix?
Interesting. That's a good question. There's no jealousy between these two. They've been through too much. I think because Sadie is so beautiful and she has any man she wants, and some of them pay her. And Jane is the opposite, because she's got these marks. She never has a man. And so when Ethan starts to pay attention to Jane, the first thing that happens is Jane checks in to make sure that Sadie isn't attracted to him, because, that's the girls'
That was one of my questions.
Step on somebody else's toe. No, girls' rules, absolutely.
Okay.
And the second bit was Sadie was actually thrilled for Jane that she could experience this tenderness with a man that she had never, ever felt before, and that came so easily for Sadie. So she was cheering her on.
Okay, very good. And does Ethan know about Jane's ability?
He learns about it in book 1, because he gets very involved in the situation that's going on with her. Okay. When this other man comes into play. So yeah, he learns about her. He doesn't like it. He doesn't accept all of it. He fights it. And even in the start of book 2, he's still fighting it, because it is scary. It's frightening to think that, first of all, the woman you love is so vulnerable at when she's dreaming like that, but also she's vulnerable when she falls into the past and physically present, because of all the damage she can do when she changes stuff in the past. So yeah, he's worried for her, doesn't fully understand it, but he is becoming, like in the very first chapter of the new book, somebody that she doesn't know recognizes her. And the reason she doesn't know them is because she dreams about them, but she hasn't dreamed in her present. She hasn't dreamed about them yet. It's in in the next few nights that she'll dream about them, but she dreamt about them in the past. So they know her, but she doesn't know them.
Right.
It's hard. You got to get your head around it. It's really complex.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun.
For sure.
It's really fun to make this come alive.
Yeah, it's an intriguing premise, that's for sure. I'm curious, did you structure the second book so that you don't necessarily have to have read the first one?
I did my best.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, I think even though you could pick up the second book,
mm-hmm.
I think so much happens in the first that I would say in this series, you really best start with the first one.
Okay.
It's just so complex.
Sure.
It's a really complex story, and I think you do yourself a favor to start with Bloodmark.
Right.
As much as I'd like to say Ghostmark is a standalone, and it is, you can pick up and read. I did put lots of backstory in, threaded it in where needed, but more so than the other series. I think this one, you have to have Bloodmark. Although, jury's out. I'd be curious to know people who have read Ghostmark without reading Bloodmark, whether they feel that way about it.
Right. And since this is the middle book, and is this a trilogy?
I'm not. I've learned my lesson. I'm not calling things trilogies anymore.
Okay. Well,
I did that with the first book, and that was a mistake. So I'm just calling it a series. It's the Dark Dreams series.
Okay.
And I'm just calling them a Dark Dreams novel 1, a Dark Dreams novel 2. So yeah, right now, I know there are 3, and there is lots and lots of story space for there to be more books, definitely. But right now, I'm just going to say 3 because I'm working on number 3.
Okay, because I was just wondering if this is the Empire Strikes Back of your trilogy.
Oh, my goodness. Well, no, I don't think so.
No? Okay, does it end on a cliffhanger?
No. You know what? Really funny. I don't like cliffhangers, so I don't put them in my books. But I did put one little thing right at the end of the second book, and someone said to me, "Oh, you left a cliffhanger." I said, "No, I did not." They said, "Yeah, this is a cliffhanger." I did. Okay, well, somebody I guess is going to think that's a cliffhanger. I didn't. I just thought it was a really interesting little twist at the end of the second book, but it doesn't impact anything.
Right.
It's just another little, oh my God, there's more to come. There's I was just leaving it as a teaser for what might happen in the third book. It was about the trial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you reveal the title of the third book yet? Is it something Mark? Bookmark, maybe? I don't know.
Originally, I was calling it question mark. I think
question mark.
Yeah. My working title is actually Scorch Mark.
Oh, okay.
For it. So that's the working title. Titles aren't my forte.
Right.
That will go through some hoops before it gets sorted out. But that's just what I have in my mind for the third book's title. So
if the series goes longer than 3 books, you're going to have to start compiling a list of book titles that end with mark, like question mark, check mark, black mark, red mark, blue mark. I don't know.
I know. Again, I probably limited myself there. So,
well, it'll just force you to be more inventive. That's all.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Or pathetic, one or the other.
Yeah. So, Ghostmark just released. Was it yesterday? You said November 1st or 2nd?
Yesterday, yes. November 1st.
And it's out at all the usual outlets.
All the usual suspects, yeah.
Okay, and if people want to find out more, they can go to your website to get all the juicy details about not just the books, but
absolutely,
you and all the other series that you've written.
That's right. It's jpmcleanauthor.com.
Okay. Is there anything that hasn't come up during the course of the interview that you'd like to mention at this time?
I would like to thank you, actually, because you recommended last time Midnight Mass to me on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
I binged it, loved it. It was very good. So I wanted to return the favor. I am reading a book right now called The Witch Collector by Teresa Weeks. It is really good. It is. It's one of those books that I read it and I look. It's on my Kindle and I look at the percent read and I keep hoping that the number goes back so that I have more to read. It's really good. I'm enjoying it.
Teresa Weeks?
Teresa, Charissa Weeks, Weaks, The Witch Collector. Yeah, I think there's more books in the series too, so that's even a bonus.
All right. Geez, I don't know if I can come up with a recommendation for you to another one. Have you watched Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, those are both
Give me this again. The Haunting.
The Haunting of Hill House. It's Mike Flanagan's reinterpretation of Shirley Jackson's novel
Okay.
in a serial form. And then Bly Manor, which is based on several James Joyce works mashed into one.
Ooh. Oh, thank you. I will look them up.
They're two haunted house stories, but they're both quite different. Yep, they're both on Netflix, so check them out.
I will. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Highly recommend those.
Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome, and look forward to hearing from you again when you have your next book out.
Terrific. I'll be here.
Which we, at this time, believe is going to be called Scorch Mark. But we won't hold you to that, so don't worry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, JP, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for coming on again.
You too. Enjoy the snow.
Oh, of course. What else? What choice do we have? All right, take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And scene.